Welcome home, y'all. This is a special solo pod. Normally, solo pods are on Tuesdays, but today, of course, is Friday, and I just could not resist getting the opportunity to talk to this extraordinary leader. Um, State Representative Angie Nixon is running for the United States Senate in Florida. And she recently had a run in simply trying to protect voters who have worked so hard to ensure their unfettered access to the ballot box in Florida, in particular, where maps were redrawn mid decade, just like so many other states throughout the country, particularly in the South, to help Donald Trump find the numbers to win elections that he cannot win on his own. So Angie Nixon went to challenge the governor on this and faced an unbelievable consequence. We're going to talk to her about that, her upcoming race primary, and how people who are like minded, strong willed, don't mind getting in a little good trouble can help. And I think what's important for us to understand in this day and age is that we've got to send leaders to our city councils, to our school boards, to the mayor's office, to the governor's office, to the attorney general's office, to the state legislature, to the United States Senate, to the United States House of Representatives, who have courage and are not afraid to use that courage to advance the causes of people who are the most vulnerable in the country right now. That is what's most important. And so we're going to make sure we continue to bring conversations like this to your YouTube channel, to your podcast feed, up until the election and beyond. Because one thing that we also know is that Black folks are generally treated as a singular transaction around electoral power. It's about casting that one ballot and then go away. You've done your duty. I don't owe you anything. And we're not getting down that way either. And it is clear from the way that Angie Nixon has run her race in her office as a member of the state House of Representatives in Florida, and certainly as the way in the way that she's running her campaign. It's a people power campaign, and we're going to talk to her about all of that now. So I want to welcome to the podcast Angie Nixon. Welcome home. That's what we say on Native Land Pod. It's so good to see you.
Hey, I'm happy to be home. Thanks for having me, Angela.
Is my highest honor and pleasure. So I want to, and I see your staff moving around like we got stuff to do. So I want to jump right in. What I want to talk to you about first is what made you decide to run for the United States Senate in Florida. I got some battle marks and scars from when Andrew ran in 2018, and like knowing I still believe that he won that race. What made you say, now is the time for us to challenge this power and to say it's not just establishment Democrats who have a chance here. I believe there are more people who think like me and have alignment or with our values than anybody else. Why now, Angie?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm a Florida girl through and through. I was actually a single mom for about 12 years. And currently I'm a mother of five. Me and my husband have a blended family. And the fact remains that too many hardworking, everyday Floridians are struggling. They're working harder and they're still struggling to get ahead. And so I often lie awake at night wondering what type of world, what type of country, what type of state I'm leaving my children. And so I could not allow the people who were in Washington, D.C. any longer, the corrupt politicians like Ashley Moody, to continue to only fight for corporations and big trillionaires and billionaires. And so I wanted to run for United States Senate so that I can fight for hardworking people.
Well, that is a good reason. And I think the other thing that you said that's so important is being a mother of five. So you're saying, I don't want to leave the state as is to these young people. What do you want to leave them?
Yeah, I want to leave them in a state where hardworking, everyday people get to shape what their communities look like and what their economies look like. I want to help lower the cost of childcare. Girl, I told you I got five kids. So, one of which is five right now, and I'm paying over $1,000 a month for childcare. And some people are paying a cost of a mortgage. I also have been talking to Floridians all across the state of Florida, and they are struggling with their prescription drugs. Some are making decisions on whether or not they should go to an emergency room or keep food on the table. And I want to lower the cost of healthcare. Actually, I want to make healthcare free by pushing for Medicare for all. But these are some of the things that Floridians are talking about, as well as the fact that Florida is now the least affordable place to live in. 18% over the national average when it comes to renters, and then with people who own their own homes, over 300% of the national average for property insurance. These are things that could be changed if we had elected officials who cared more about people than they do these big businesses.
There are some people that would say, on the big business point, and I'll say this: I'm from Seattle, Washington, live there now. There's recently produced a millionaire's tax, and a lot of the businesses are threatening to leave. I think one practical thing that folks sometimes don't consider is when you say we're going to go after these businesses and try to shutter their doors, it ends up leaving gaps around employment. What's the solution to ensure that people who you may want to run out of there, or at least say pay your fair share, but they're like, okay, we're going to leave. If they leave, what's the solution for the employees who work there who are just trying to make it, as you talked about?
Yeah, for sure. So it's really important to note that a budget is a moral document. What we spend our money on illustrates our values, and we actually have money to do it all, number one, right? Like they're gonna say that we don't have money to take care of people and to have things like access to universal child care or free college, but they're spending $1 billion on a ballroom we'll never get to cha-cha slide in. They're spending $2 billion a day on a war that we didn't ask for. These businesses continue to make more money on top of more money. Over 88 companies last year made over $105 billion, and they paid zero in federal taxes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm talking to Floridians across the state who make $60,000 a year, and they're in a payment plan with the IRS. These businesses are going to have to pay. They can pay. And we also need to make sure that these billionaires pay as well. And it'll be okay. They are not going, like, they were already moving to Florida. We're going to make them pay their fair share, and we're going to stop this from happening.
Yeah. I want to pivot to this redistricting battle. Because I got to be honest with you, Angie, when it came up in Texas last year, we saw kind of a litmus test. They were like, let's see how far we can go with
Yeah.
this redistricting plan. And I think even though the people fought back and they were arrested and they were challenged and they were tried and they were threatened, like if they don't come back to work, the state legislators, if they don't come back to work, the state marshals are going to get them. And it really did feel reminiscent of the Jim Crow South and the battle leading up to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And then we saw the onslaught. So they said, we're going to give this a try. The Supreme Court said, we're going to rubber stamp this. And all of the states, particularly in the South, said, okay, now we feel safe. We don't have to go through a pre-clearance process. We don't have to prove that these maps are not racist, or that these maps are racist. We can just do whatever we want to do. And you were like, not on my watch. So talk to me about what compelled you to push in the way that you did to say, I don't want to talk to anybody else about this matter as a state rep and as a Senate candidate. I want to talk to the governor himself. Talk to me about how you got to that place and then what happened
Yeah.
on the other side of that.
For sure. So, on the same day that the Calais ruling came out and the Supreme Court decided to gut the Voting Rights Act, Ron DeSantis and the Republicans here in the state of Florida decided to unconstitutionally and illegally draw maps that diminish black representation. And as I continually throughout my legislative term looked across the room at Representative Yvonne Henson, who is the oldest state lawmaker, and was reminded of what she said in 2022 when we peacefully protested then when they were removing black congressional districts, when she said that she used to get spat on, dogs sicked on her, and the threat of fire hoses because she wanted to ensure that her mom had the right to vote because she was a child with her. I was not okay with Republicans deciding who their voters are as opposed to allowing the voters and people to decide who represented them. And so then I went to go talk to the governor who decided to rubber stamp this for Donald Trump, and he had me arrested. This is authoritarianism, dictatorship, fascism, all in one, and it's disrespectful.
But Angie, let me ask you this. He had you arrested for what? What was the charge?
They said I was trespassing because I didn't leave. I didn't leave after they shut down the offices, and I waited. However, I'm a state lawmaker
That's
and I
right.
pay taxes. That's my office too. And so to tell me that you're gonna like to arrest me now, and then they charge me with resisting without violence. It's a slap in the face. But we see this time and time again. We saw this previously, like you alluded to it back in the day. And
Yeah.
so I have kids. I'm a black woman. I'm always going to speak up for black issues, and also speak up to make sure that people's voices are heard.
And I guess that is the question. What I love about this interview, by the way, y'all, is as we're talking to Angie Nixon about being foreign with the people, you hear people congregating in her office right now. I don't know if y'all are about to canvas or what, but this is
Yeah.
really exciting. And I hope it inspires people to really consider more broadly and deeply the kinds of people they want to vote for. Is a man back there holding the Angie Nixon sign right now. I love it. But here's my thing. So you go to court to talk about this arrest, to figure out what the charges are, and now you have to go to court in September. Like you
Yes.
have a trial in September on trespassing at the governor's office and resisting non-violently, by the way, but resisting no less. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this trial?
I think we're gonna win. I
Yeah.
think we are going to win, but we are gonna take it all the way. My attorney is very confident. And look, y'all, we cannot sit idly by as our democracy is being destroyed. People like to say, "Oh my gosh, she lacked decorum. She shouldn't have done it that way. That's not professional." And what good is decorum and professionalism when they are literally destroying our institutions and
That's
they're
right.
doing things that are legal and unconstitutional? When do we get loud? And I love my first lady, my forever first lady, and she said, "When they go low, we go high." I'm telling y'all, when they go low, we go to when they go low, we need to get loud, right? We need to get super, super loud. We need to organize harder and stronger and get louder because that will show that there's more of us than them. Right now,
Yeah.
people think there's more of them than us, but no, there's a lot of Republicans that aren't MAGA, but they think that because they're the loudest that they have to go along to get along. But I believe in people power, which is what we are embarking on at this campaign. And all these people you see walking in behind me, I'm happy to announce, I'm going to break it here on your show, Angela. Maxwell Frost, Congressman Maxwell Frost is endorsing us today. And so we are going to go out and canvass later, but it is great. We are super excited. We're building momentum. And it's important to note that my campaign, there was an independent poll that was recently done this week that was released that stated that my campaign has the better shot of taking on Ashley Moody in the general election. And that is even with being out fundraised. But that is because I have people power.
That's
I'm
right.
from the people, for the people, and by the people. And we have people that are working with us.
This is my last question because this is exciting. And tell Maxwell I said, good job. That's exactly what he should have done. Um, I want to know for people who saw what happened to you and were like, not our sister, not on our watch. What can people do? I know that you have a primary, talk about your primary date coming
Yes.
up, but also when we get on the other side of the primary, people got to show up for you to make
Yeah.
sure they know you were not to be messed with. So I
Yeah.
want you to answer. We always in our shows with call to actions. calls to action. What are the two things they can do? One, to support you in your primary around the date, around donating, around spreading the word, and then also around the trial.
For sure, for sure. So, number one, I think it's important to highlight that Black women know what it's like to be dismissed by other people, by the establishment, and like by other candidates. And I want to uplift the fact that I'm being dismissed by my primary opponent. He's refusing to debate, he's refusing to show up and share the stage with me. They're kind of acting as though we don't exist, but the polling has shown otherwise because we're leading in the polls, right? And we're going to show him that we do exist on election night when we win. But what people can do is they can amplify my campaign, letting people know that I am in this race. Follow us on social media at Angie for FL. Spread the message. Also, they can make a donation to my campaign at angienixon.com. We really need that assistance. And in regards to my court case, we just need people to get loud about it and let them know that if they arrested a sitting lawmaker simply for fighting for democracy to ensure that no one took away our voices, then they can come after all of us. But I know one thing is clear: they can't come for all of us if we get loud and we get organized. And so I am asking people to join organizations, to push back, to support grassroots candidates like myself so that we can, in fact, win and build a Florida and an America for all, Angela.
I love it. Well, August 18th is the primary date.
Yes.
We want to make sure that you are getting out into the streets, boots on the ground, and knocking on those doors is what matters. We will make sure we put in our show notes ways that folks can support you for the primary and also for the trial coming up. But we are definitely sending our love, our prayers,
Thank you.
and have a great canvassing event today. Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Angie. Well, you all, it's so important that we have guests like Angie Nixon on. I think that she shows us what, that we can still have hope in our elected officials, especially in a harrowing hour like the one we live in now. Somebody that understands public service, who understands that public service sometimes meets activism, and all of that meets organization. And so we have to ensure that we are fighting the good fight on every side. And when somebody's willing to put their bodies on the line, strategy on the line in the way that Representative Nixon did, we have to show her that we're with her. We can't demand courage of our elected officials, and then when they show up courageously, now we're quiet. That doesn't make sense. We can't criticize and be yelling on the sidelines about everybody that's doing it wrong. And when somebody gets it right, we don't stand with them and let the world know that we stand with them. So I thought today would be a great moment for you all to hear about her incredible story. Shout out to all the Angelas out there whose name means bringer of truth. I'm a little biased. But yeah, she brought truth and she brought power, and she's standing with the people. Um, Growing up with my father, I went to so many protests, so many marches, and a common refrain was the people united will never be defeated. And I pray that as we go into this weekend, we remember exactly that: the people of goodwill, willing to get in good trouble, will never be defeated. So I ask that you hold tight to that, that you hold fast to joy, that you remember that power is on our side and it belongs to us, especially if we're not domineering or abusive of that power. So shout out to you all. Welcome home, family, and we'll see you next week.
Nobody knows the troubles I've seen,